Good afternoon, y'all. And let me share with y'all, today I'd like to look at temperance. What is temperance? And when I go into the school system, as I teach people, I look at, they say, what is temperance? Well, there's another word called abstemiousness, which y'all probably looked at. And to me, temperance is just making the right decisions. And Lisa, if I can share my experience over the last 3 months and how me making the wrong decision impacted my life. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
There are those that say people who have a good vitamin D cannot get COVID. Does anybody know what the test range for vitamin D is? The lab test, the blood level for vitamin D. It's 30 to 100. 30 to 100. Most folks that I work with are maybe 30. A lot of them are below 30, and they're in the 20s, the teens, and some are so bad they don't even show up on their labs. Well, I was trying to beef up for COVID, and I have a hard time stabilizing my vitamin D, and so I was taking a little extra. And the week before I tested my labs, my lab was 216. 216. Now that's way high, and that's the level that you actually fight cancer with. I was taking vitamin C, I was taking Alimed, I was taking elderberry, I was taking zinc. I was just doing everything right, everything what I needed to take to protect myself from COVID, and was doing quite well. I'd been over a year and had done fine. I work with a lot of folks that are sick. People with COVID would come in and see me, or I'd go out to the car and see them. No problems at all. And this falls under temperance. This falls under the topic today, making the right decisions. So the end of July, I went to a convention down in Orlando. It's called ASI. I had a booth there. I was there late. We were up late at night, and then on the way back Sunday, back to Tennessee, we had some vehicle problems with one of the vehicles in the group. We didn't get back home till after 4 o'clock Monday morning. Didn't get to sleep till 5. Got back up at 7 to go to work. And so, what is that called? Anybody there? Sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation. And I've shared with people, for years, the big three, sugar. What's the next one? Stress. Number 3, sleep deprivation. You can do everything right, but if you do just one of those, it wipes out the immune system. That's making the right decision or the wrong decision. On Wednesday, I came down with symptoms, and I won't go into everything it did to me, but it messed with me a lot. But what I'm trying to say is that temperance is making the right decision all the time. And I used to think temperance was just don't drink, don't smoke, don't do illicit drugs. But it's far more than that. It's making the right decision. So let's take a look here, see if I can figure this thing out. I don't do this enough. Oh, wrong one. Can you see it now okay?
Yep, we see it.
Okay, great. Excellent. So is temperance moderation in all things? Would you say temperance is moderation in all things?
No.
No.
I wouldn't say that.
No?
No.
Well, that's what I hear. People tell me just moderation in all things. Well, I can tell you, when Walter was starting to grow up, I thought, wait a minute. I was saying temperance and moderation. No, temperance and cocaine, temperance and moonshine is not, moderation in moonshine, moderation in cocaine is not an option in my family. Would you agree? Yeah. So it's moderation, what? In the good things, in total abstinence in the bad things. So as we look here, we don't want alcohol, and we do need moderation in what we eat. Do we need to eat? Absolutely, but we need moderation in that food. No, I don't want moderation in smoking. We need total abstinence in smoking, total abstinence in alcohol, moderation in what we eat, but total abstinence in some things that we eat. Moderation in the good things. And it's, again, moderation. Can you drink too much water? Absolutely. There's actually a diagnosis of when a person drinks too much water, it can actually cause death. How about too much exercise? Do you need to have moderation in exercise? Absolutely. Too much exercise can be harmful. And Dr. Jim he's the expert there. You want total abstinence in the bad things, such as smoking, illicit drugs. Here we've got, move my little screen here. What about, oh, you got some alcohol there. You've got your do we need moderation in even TV, what we're watching, or total abstinence in some things on television? Do we need that? Absolutely. I encourage y'all to look at a program by Scott Retzmuth. Dr. Lisa, have y'all ever shared Scott Retzmuth's information with the folks?
No, we have not.
It's where it talks about the most addictive item in America today is media, whether it's Facebook, whether it's gaming or whatever. Gaming, and you got to be so careful with what you watch on television. I was listening to Dr. Ben Carson about a year ago. And y'all, RBTI, y'all need to sign up for that. It is amazing. You'll learn a lot in just one swig. Don't drink a whole bunch. Y'all, I encourage you, take RBTI. I was listening to Ben Carson about a year ago, and Carson said, whatever your eyes have seen, whatever your ears have heard, whatever your nose has smelled, whatever your mouth has tasted, whatever your fingers or body has touched, the brain will always remember it. And that can be good, but that can be bad, unless you have a stroke or a major injury to the brain. There are some wrecks that are in my brain. There's some house fires that had children in it. They're always in my brain, and they'll never leave. But that's what I do as a firefighter. And so I just have to do it and try to protect myself. There are things that we watch on television, do you think can be harmful to our minds? And so today I'm not going to get into as much statistics, but let's just broaden our thoughts on, as we look at making the right decisions, whether it's things we have moderation or what we have total abstinence in. As we look at television, are there things that we just should not watch? I believe so. We look here at 7 factors of longevity. It is the gold standard in lifestyle health. The redeveloped study of 15 years of 6,900 people. You've got eating breakfast regularly. That's using temperance in what we eat, not eating between meals, maintaining proper weight. That's temperance, making the right decisions there. Exercising regularly, but in moderation. As we look at sleep, making the right decisions there. Not smoking and no use of alcohol. Again, all these fall within temperance, moderation, or total abstinence. What do you think, moderation or abstinence? I would go with abstinence. I had a guy come in the other day, and he had a health issue, and I sit down with him. It was a simple fix, We could have seen remarkable results in 6 months. I sat down, developed a nutrition plan for him, and he says, I don't do fruit. I don't do fruit. And then I said, okay, you need to do vegetables. He said, I only do one vegetable, and that's potatoes. So this is his vegetable here, French fries, or a big old potato, and he's a meat and potato guy. He doesn't eat beans. He doesn't eat any vegetables except potatoes and no fruit. That's a challenge. And some people, this is the vegetables that they're getting. French fries. Moderation or abstain? Moderation. You know, as we look at the vegetables, we want to eat good food, but again, moderation. Grains. That's a good question. And some things are abstain, some things are moderation. And we won't get into that today. But as we look at the grains, some of the grains we really need to abstain from. And as I learn more and more, I'm finding more and more nutritionists saying there's really an issue with wheat out there. Let's look at eating the European wheat, not the American wheat, because of the problems with the superhybridization and the glycosides, the Roundup. So some wheat, some grains, moderation, some grains, abstinence. Snickers bar. What do you think? This used to be, when I used to travel, when I was in regular healthcare, I did a lot of teaching in regular healthcare, as I would go across the state of North Carolina and actually all over the United States. And as I would travel, I'd leave and I'd be a little tired. I'd pull into a gas station. I'd get me a Dr. Pepper and a Snickers bar. What did that do to my immune system? That 12-ounce Dr. Pepper, that one Snickers bar that's just this big, wipes out your immune system, and you only have 1 out of 14 white cells for the next four hours. You just anesthetize 13 of your white cells eating that Snickers bar or that 2 Reese cup and that Dr. Pepper. So do we want moderation or abstain? Abstain. Moderation or abstain? Good moderation. It looks very good, very healthy. Shrimp. Someone the other day asked me, they came in and they wanted to lower their cholesterol. And I said, you know, they wanted a healthy pill for lowering cholesterol. And yes, there's the Cholesterol Pro is an excellent product. It's by Now. It's a citrus, and it works very well for raising the HDL, getting rid of the LDL, or lowering it, or not getting rid of it, but lowering it. Yes, there's red yeast rice. I don't like it as much as I do the Cholesterol Pro. But the first thing I look at is encouraging that person to eat food that doesn't have cholesterol in it. Well, she felt that she needed to eat meat still. She's okay, what food has the most cholesterol? I said, well, brains probably has the most cholesterol. I've seen people fight over pig brains. I can remember my first healthcare facility I was the administrator at. Every morning for breakfast, they served brains and eggs. They served cow brains and eggs. And I went in and I said, nope, got to get rid of these brains because they're just extremely unhealthy. And I wasn't even into this yet, but I knew that brains just weren't good. But if you want a good dose of cholesterol, brains are good. Right next to brains is shrimp. Shrimp is loaded with cholesterol. We know the diseases of the ocean. I'd choose to abstain. Almonds. Almonds, moderation or abstain. And as we look at these things, you say, Walt, this is very basic. This is something you could do with a first grader. Yes, I actually do this kind of a program, not this actually PowerPoint, but I do this exact same thing with kids in the school system from kindergarten or up to their senior year in high school. It's very basic, very easy, but we need to train our brains before when we look at things, we make a choice. Moderation or abstain? Moderation or abstain? Almonds are the number one nut. Almonds are the king of the nuts. Excellent nut. Yes, English walnuts is better for the brain function. Yes, black walnuts have a better PS ratio, polyunsaturated divided by saturated. So it is better for the heart than almonds, but overall, almonds are the king of the nuts. Excellent nut. Again, moderation. How about that juicy burger? I had a professor in school. He was a science teacher. He called them scab burgers. As we look at a hamburger, is that moderation or abstinence? Well, as I learned, as I took cattle to the stockyard, as I saw cattle coming into the stockyard growing up on a beef farm, I decided that wasn't what I wanted to put in my body, because as that blood ran through that cancer, ran through that part of the meat that was either the steak or the hamburger, whatever, it went back through that part of the meat that had the cancer, you're eating cancerous blood. And so I chose to go away from eating hamburgers. How about another salad? Very, very good. Moderation or abstinence? It's very simple, but it's just as we look at life. And we look at life and we say from a spiritual standpoint, shall I do it? Shall I not do it? Who's it of? Is it of God? Is it of Satan? We're just constantly making those decisions in our mind. As someone comes to us and they say, Walt, you want to do this? How do we filter it? Does it fall within our spiritual yes or our spiritual no? Well, the things that we do here from being healthy for us needs to fall within moderation or abstinence. Moderation or abstinence. And I don't even say yes, because you can do too much of a good thing. And so moderation even of the good things. As we look at chicken, abstinence. I have a customer of mine, he raises, it's over 200,000 chickens. He will not eat them. His wife will not eat them because he said he knows what goes into the feed, the hormones, and the antibiotics. He will not eat chicken because he said he is not going to feed that to his family. Moderation or abstinence. Doesn't that look good? Looks delicious. Now here we got to take a look here, and as we look at the different items here, as we come up to here, some is moderation, some is abstinence. We've got some juices here that look good, but then some things we want to say yes, either yes or no. And so as we come up to Thanksgiving and we say, okay, what are we going to eat? Am I going to take care of my body, or am I going to say, it doesn't matter? Well, it does matter. And so as we make those choices to be healthy, some of the things on that table are moderation, some of the things on the table are abstinence. Ooh, now I'm going to start bothering some people. Moderation or abstinence?
Moderation.
Moderation, I hear. Okay. When I was growing up, I played a lot of sports. And I can tell you I was extremely competitive. And I would do whatever it took to not get caught so we didn't get whatever kind of penalty. And I can tell you that sports messed with my brain. Sports messed with my brain. I wanted to win. And if I didn't win, what was going on in my brain? It was tough. When Walter was little, I put him in Little League and he was playing. And when he won, I was happy. When he didn't win, I was unhappy because I was very, very competitive. And then a guy came along called Stephen Covey. Have any of y'all heard of Stephen Covey? I'd encourage you to read on Stephen Covey. He was very popular in the 90s. Covey had the philosophy of a win-win situation. And that's where everybody wins. Well, I can tell you in sports, there's not a win-win. It's a win-lose. And even in business, when I started off in business was a very win-lose. I can remember my vice president of the Eastern United States coming to me one time in Chattanooga. I was an administrator there. And he said, Walt, I want you to do whatever it takes to steal the business from your competitors. There's a win-lose mentality. I don't care what it does to them, whatever it takes, bring that business to us, period. I want you to have the business. And as I started studying Covey, as I started studying the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award, and I encourage you to look at the Malcolm Baldrige Quality Award, and that was Ronald Reagan in the 80s, and Japan was whooping us in both the automobiles and in electronics. And so President Reagan went to the chairman of the Department of Commerce and Insurance in the United States, Malcolm Baldrige, and he said, I want you to I want to study what the Japs do, and I want to put together a program that we will be more successful than the Japs, and where our people buy our products and we can compete with the Japanese. And bottom line, it was continuous quality improvement. And with continuous quality improvement, they found the best way to do it was a win-win situation. And example, Cadillac had the anti-locking brakes, and they were spending $3 million a year to protect the anti-lock brakes. So no one else could gain that knowledge, Ford, the LTDs, or anyone else out there. And then the Baldrige Award came out, and Cadillac looked at, it was General Motors, do we compete for the Malcolm Baldrige Award? And in that process, they got to thinking, wait a minute, people are dying because Ford and these other companies don't have anti-locking brakes. It's more than just profit. And so they actually went and taught Ford and these other companies the technology in anti-locking brakes. They won the Malcolm Baldrige Award that year because of that philosophy. When you win, I win. We all win. We want to have if you do a good business deal, I was taught in school a good business deal is when I get the advantage and they lose, where you Jew them and Jew them and Jew them till, you get the best. That's not a good business deal. They get hurt in that. A good business deal is where everybody does well. And so when I go to buy a vehicle now, or if I go to buy something, tell me what your price is. Well, that's too much for what I want. Then I just walk away. They need that for what, that price. But if I come to someone and they have a price, I say, that's good for me, that good for you, then that's a good business deal. As I started learning that philosophy, I started looking at sports, and I started seeing that as my involvement in sports did not have that philosophy. It was a win-lose philosophy. And it actually messed with my thinking. Now, some people may do fine, and you can watch sports and it doesn't bother you at all. But for me, a very competitive person, when I was growing up in sports, I just can't involve that anymore because it causes me to want to win, you to lose, and it has hard feelings. And so as we look at temperance, is win-lose competition, that strong competition that's in sports, is it really that healthy for our minds? Choose character building recreational activities. Do competitive sports build character? Let's take a look. Well, is that good character? Is that something that you want your child doing right there? 1,600 male high school seniors were analyzed as to the effect of participating in varsity athletics. The effects were increase aggression, increase irritability, reduced honesty. This was me, y'all. Decreased self-control, decreased independence, slight increase in self-esteem. And that's true. But is it, as we mold our children, as we mold our brains, do we want increased aggression? Do we want increased irritability? Do we want a reduced honesty? And I can tell you, if you come into second base, if my cleats high and not get caught, I was doing it because I wanted to get safe on second base. Decrease self-control, decrease independence, self-esteem. And it's good to have esteem. And it's good, but there's too much self sometimes. You know what I'm saying? It's all about me. That's not what we want.
Yeah. The
more Canadian boys play youth hockey, the more they feel cheating is important, think violent behavior is legitimate and expected. Have you ever been to a hockey game? I went to a hockey game one time in DC. It was the Capitals against, I forgot who they were playing. Whoa, those guys are aggressive. Are likely to mimic illegal tactics used by the pros on television. Athletes have over 5 times the risk of engaging in violent behavior. Athletes have over 5 times the risk of engaging in violent behavior. You ever seen this kind of stuff? We've seen it on television, sure. But have you ever been like that in sports yourself? I mean, you look at even Little League, the parents, what the parents do in Little League, it's not the kids, it's the parents. I mean, the parents are like this. It's a question we have to ask ourselves. Moderation or abstinence? Moderation or abstinence? Oh, this looks nice. Would that not be nice? Now, do we want moderation? Yes. We don't have time to do this, all day long, every day of the week. We got other stuff to do. I believe in working. And so this is nice. It's it's exercise, it's recreational, it's bonding, but moderation. This is good exercise. This is good. Moderation. Moderation or abstinence. How about water? Talked to a person this morning. Guy comes in, he's got some health issues. He has health issues because of dehydration. And I asked him, I said, how much water do you drink? He said, I don't do water. Actually, I had two guys this morning, two guys that don't do water. Yes, moderation. Moderation or abstinence. This looks like a 16-ounce bottle. That will wipe out your immune system 70-some%. For the next, I think it's like 73% for the next 4 hours. Not to mention all of the challenges, as y'all have learned in this in IIOM, the challenges of drinking soft drinks. Moderation or abstaining. This is a cup of coffee. What does the caffeine do to us? I equate caffeine to a cattle prod. Again, I grew up on a dairy farm and beef cattle. And if you have a cattle prod, that hot stick, and you shock that cow, caffeine is like shocking your nerves over and over. You don't feel it, but it extremely overstimulates your nerves. It's not healthy for you. And ladies, for every cup of coffee, it increases the risk of miscarriage by 4%. Every cup of coffee increases your risk of miscarriage by 4%. Look at the person who drinks a pot of coffee a day. Moderation or abstain? As I talk to the kids in the school system and I ask them about alcohol, they're very quick to tell me whether alcohol is a good thing or a bad thing. And that is based on watching their fathers, watching their mothers. The kids will tell me, it makes my mommy and daddy do stupid stuff. And you have to have, it's heartbreaking. It really is. It's heartbreaking to hear the little stories they tell you of what they see alcohol do to their family. The abuse, the financial effect of alcohol, the health issues of alcohol. I tell kids, do you want your liver green? Do you want to kill brain cells? Moderation or abstain? Prohibition brings peace to Alaska town. The 3,900 people of Barlow, Alaska voted to ban the sale and use of alcohol in 1994. Alcohol-related crimes and accidents plunged. Crime fell 70% in the first year. Emergency room alcohol-related visits dropped from 118 per month to 23 per month. I remember I was in the ER one day, and this old feller come in. Ambulance brought him in. His MBA, his blood alcohol level was over 400, is almost 500. He fell off the tractor, and the tractor ran over him. I don't even see how he's even able to sit on the tractor with an MBA of over 400, almost 500. Sunshine. So as we look at these questions, again, just as we look at from a spiritual standpoint, is it of God? Is it of Satan? Do I do it? Do I not do it? As we look at health choices, do we do that issue in moderation, or do we abstain from it from a health standpoint? I would say moderation, depending on what he's watching. Violence caused by access to television, children in Noddle, or however it is, Canada. Violent crime had a spectacular increase, especially among the young. Hitting, shoving, biting increased 160% in first and second grade students within 2 years. This is a place in Canada that had no television. When they brought television to this community, the crime increased. The hitting, shoving, biting increased 160% in the first and second grade students within 2 years. How about music? Now I'm stepping on some toes. Don't talk about my music now. It's a cultural thing. That's what my culture. Well, I had this nurse who was from another country that was a lot more aggressive than our country. And she was aggressive. And I asked her, I said, we need to tone it down a bit. And she said, this is how it is in my country, but you're not in your country. And whether it's your country or not, is aggression, is that the right thing from a spiritual standpoint, good and bad? And people will say, well, that's my culture and what I eat. Well, hog jowl chitlins, biscuits and gravy is a culture within my culture, the Appalachian culture. But does that mean I still eat hog jowl chitlins, biscuits and gravy? Yes, Mary Lou makes biscuits and gravy that's very, very healthy and it's delicious. But your standard Southern Appalachian biscuits and gravy is unhealthy and it'll kill you. Is that okay that I still keep eating the Southern Appalachian food because it's my culture? No. What about music? Well, it's my culture. That's what my culture listens to. When you hear music that's talking about raping, killing, no, you don't need to listen to that music. Your children don't need to be listening to that music. Let me share with you a law. We have the law of gravity. There's a law of the mind. It is a law of the mind that it gradually adapts itself upon the subjects of which it is trained to dwell. It is a law of the mind that it gradually adapts itself upon the subjects of which it is trained to dwell. And so when you listen to music that's talking about cheating and running around and whatever it might be, crazy stuff out there, killing, does that condition your mind? Absolutely it does. Does it condition your children's mind, your grandchildren's mind? Absolutely it does. And so as we look at music, we need to have abstinence in some types of music, moderation in other music. And I say moderation. Do we want to hear music 24 hours a day? Not at all. We don't want music at night. And we've learned at IIOM that it needs to be quiet at night. It needs to be dark at night in order to have the best quality of sleep. And so we don't want to have music, even though it's Beethoven, even though it's great gospel music or elevator music, whatever. We need moderation. But some, just like food, there needs to be abstinence in music. What about what we read? Is what we read, do we need to have moderation or abstinence? Absolutely. This little book here is a great little book. My grandkids, my grandkids use this little book. It's a great book. Moderation. But are there books that we should not? What does Harlequin romance do to the brain of a young girl or an older lady? what we read can affect our minds. How about gossip? Gossip, gossip, evil ting, much unhappy, nuss it bring. If you can't say something nice, don't talk at all is my advice. Gossip, is that something that's good? Communicating is good, moderation. But gossip, if you walk up on a situation that someone's gossiping, you've got two choices. You can either help change and move that conversation to something healthy, or you can say, you know, I'm going to have to excuse myself. I've got something I need to do. Gossip is not healthy. And so temperance and those things, can gossip mess with our brains? Absolutely. The brain runs the whole body. Then if your brain's messed up, can it mess with digestion? Absolutely, and other parts of the body. Here's the key to health. Before you treat the body, you must treat the brain. And we treat the brain by the quality of the blood. And the quality of the blood is determined by what we eat and what we drink. And so the health of the brain is so important, most important, because that's how we communicate with God. But the brain, you've got to keep that brain in good working order for the rest of the body to run well. And conversations can be unhealthy. And we have to abstain from some conversations and have moderation in others. Tobacco, that's an easy one. But I can tell you, I remember doing stop smoking programs. Winston-Salem was the hardest place I ever did stop smoking programs. But finally, we know the knowledge. And I believe today, from a food standpoint, we are like we were in the 70s and 80s in tobacco. We have the knowledge of tobacco, but we're fighting big tobacco. Today, we have the knowledge in nutrition, and we're fighting the big food people, the big food manufacturers. Moderation or abstaining? Let me go back to this one here. Oh, there we go, just going back and forth. I flew into LA during coronavirus when they were kind of shut down. And I tell you, I normally, when I fly into LA, I fly into smog. There was no smog flying into LA during last year when it was really a lot going on out there. Which is better, this one or this one? We need to make those decisions. And where we live, are we breathing the toxins? How's it affecting our bodies for how well our bodies run? Rest. And this is where I messed up. I messed up here 3 months ago. And because of that, I had some major health issues. Because of this one item where I would have been better to have stopped, got a motel room that next day, driven on home, and I wouldn't have lost 3.5 weeks of work. And still today, I'm still having issues because of it. And so that haven't still resumed. Making that decision, it's a tough one. It's a hard one for me because there's so much in my head I want to do. I have so many goals, so many things I want to do. There's so much good stuff to do to help people. But you've got to take care of yourself. As I said at a good friend's funeral, how do you say no in order to say yes longer? Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Even reading the Bible, it needs to be moderation. I have literally met people who thought their job was just to read the Bible and everybody else was to work, provide funding for them, a place to stay, provide funding for them to have food. And I disagree with that. The Bible's very clear. You don't work, you don't eat. And so there's moderation there also.